I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm too close enough to my camera or not. So news of the day is I finally received the cushion. It's for people who ask me to do makeup videos. I received my favorite cushion by Max Studios. I will open it later. Maybe I will do the video for Mac. Anyways, I received the case for lipstick, the one I wanted to have. And yesterday I was talked by a gentleman to whom I said that I'm not going with him to a date, and he found my address, and he tried to enter the house, and the owner of the house didn't let him in, although he was trying to get into the house. And he was standing outside of the house for 1 hour, waiting for me. So, yeah, if something happens to me, it's I will put a name in the comments of this person. Anyways, let's carry on. Let's carry on our reactions on things. So here's an interesting topic I found recently. There are some people with whom actually it's really impossible to watch movies, because those people immediately know what it's gonna be, who's gonna be the main evil, like, I don't know, killer or whatever it is. And I was asking myself, because I'm a little bit like that. But the thing is that I did studies on behaviorism, psychology, psychiatry, so kind of patterns you can really predict, especially when we look through it through evolutionary point. But if we don't go that far, what gives this superpower to people to predict what's gonna be in the end of the book, of the movie? And you know the topic of my channel, what is my channel about? So apparently, somehow magically turned out, that most of the narcissistic abuse survivors, they can predict how the movie is gonna end, and they're gonna spoil it to you. But not only narcissistic abuse survivors, also people on autistic spectrum, people with ADHD. You know what is ADHD? Here it is. What it is, just in simple words. But I think all the world, everyone knows what is ADHD, because it becomes so kind of popular and you know, recently, in recent days. And what else we have? Another thing I don't remember. And yes, narcissistic abuse survivors. So let's just watch little video, and see the comments, what people say about that, because my opinion is important, but people's opinion is much more important, because we learn through that, we learn through stories. So let's see.
Watching movies with narcissistic abuse survivors who have high pattern recognition skills feels like a spoiler alert, because they see everything coming. In fact, they often know the plot twist before the movie even settles in. Sometimes within the first few minutes, sometimes just from a look, a line of dialogue, or the way a character enters the story. They do not need the build-up. Their brain has already run the pattern, matched it to past experience, and reached the conclusion. This is not intuition for entertainment, it is survival intelligence. You're being lied to, gaslit, and blindsided, trained your mind to recognize trajectories, not moments. You do not wait for betrayal to happen on screen, because you have learned that harm announces itself early.
Let me give you my little comments on that. Apparently our brain is built the way that that's why we have this like, you know, magical thinking. That's why we believe in some mystical stuff and everything, because for our brain it's much more safe to believe that this I don't know, tree moves not because of the wind, but because there's someone there. So apparently, our brain learns with every experience we get, with every movie we watch, with every book we read. That's why I love to have this information and to gather all this information all around me, and to watch, to read as much as I can. The only thing is that I don't really like watching movies because it takes time, like 3 hours, 2 hours. For me, it's too much, and especially in this case, I can predict how it's gonna end, so it's not really interesting. So yes, so we have people with narcissistic trauma, but we have people with ADHD, we have people with autism spectrum disorder, and we have high intelligence people, and we have people who read a lot of books, who watched a lot of movies. That's why they can recognize the patterns, because most of the movies, scenarios, most of the books, especially now, they're written and they made by almost the same scheme. And actually we have a few, like we have, if I'm not mistaken, more than 50 ways how to develop the scenario. But in general, it's actually 3 or 4 ways. So it's really not so hard to understand how the movie is going to end. And like any movie you can imagine. For example, I don't know what movie you like to watch. We don't talk about horror movies, because me, for example, I cannot watch horror movies. I cannot watch anything that that's including violence in the movie or a book, whatever it is. It's for me, I just cannot. I'm too sensitive for that. So when it comes to people who predict in movies how it's gonna be and everything, not only narcissistic abuse survivors, but okay, let's talk about survivors, and let's try to figure out if we can, because it's like never-ending story, it's never-ending question. Because me, I'm always questioning myself. I know why I can recognize easily patterns of some people's behavior, because, for example, my parents, they had like different periods, like when they were not really, like when it wasn't really safe with them. So I learned a lot how it can be and what to expect, but you still don't know what to expect. So you can only predict, but you never really know. That's how it works with movies. So, we will see. Very true, the writers have to set the characters up piece by piece, which will show up in their behavior patterns early on. The understanding of why the person did what they did usually comes after watching everything. But when you've gone through certain trauma, you see it unfolding right in front of you. Yes, actually people are not so different. People's behavior can be classified. People's behavior can be put in if it's a normal person, if it's a person with a personality disorder. We're not talking only about narcissistic personality disorder. It can be classified by DSM-5, and it can be classified. The personality disorder can be classified quite easily. But we don't have only blacks and whites. So most of the time it's something in between, but we have more tendencies for this personality disorder or for that personality disorder. So we can easily predict, not predict, but classify the person, what kind of disorder he has or doesn't have, or is it a normal person. But also normal, what is normal? In every culture, normal is it's a different thing. This makes so much sense. I'm often told I am awful to watch movies with, because I unravel the whole thing from the first go. Well, it's not a nice thing. Keep it for yourself. Keep this for yourself if you know how it's gonna be. Otherwise it looks like a little bit of a narcissistic disorder, or I don't know, a narcissistic traits. let's say, when you know about your superpower and you not gonna let people to enjoy the movie because you're not enjoying it yourself. But if you have this superpower for every movie, just don't watch movie with your friends, or keep your mouth shut until the movie ends, and then you can say that yes, I knew that it's gonna end like this. Otherwise you're gonna it's not nice. Yep, I watched a James Bond flick with my narcissistic ex, and he predicted that the girl would fall in love with him. I knew that she would pretend to fall in love with him, collect info and objects, and then turn him into her bosses, who contracted her to seduce him. Both Bond and my ex were too stupid to see it coming. They both acted very surprised, because they both think women are stupid and easy to use. Well, that's another perspective, and most of the time it's a projection, because when you're a narcissistic ex saw just this coming, probably he projected. But you too, when you knew from the start that this girl will pretend to fall in love with him, like, it's interesting. It's interesting point. It's interesting point of view, but you might be projecting yourself. So we don't know who's narcissist here. Maybe you both. Sometimes it's because you have seen many movies or read many books. Not everything is a psychological issue. Most movie patterns are repetitive and predictable. True. I don't really remember. I think there's a very famous guy who wrote a book. Let me search on the internet. So it's like something like fairy tales, scenarios by prop theory. It's prop theory. A prop morphology. Okay, so apparently, prop theory. It's so it's a Prop, Vladimir Prop. It's a folklorist. His stories, like usually stories have diverse characters. They fundamentally rely on recurring character functions or roles, particularly in fairy tales, to drive the narrative structure. So apparently we have always a narrative, certain narrative structures in the movies, in the like anywhere, everywhere, TV shows too. So thus we have villain, donor, helper, princess or prize, dispatcher, hero and false hero, each performing specific actions. So we have 7 character functions: villain, donor, helper, princess or prize, dispatcher, the hero and false hero. So usually all the stories, all the scenarios, they are built on this kind of theory. Most of them, most fairy tales, most books, they built it this way. That's why. So it's not always psychological. Sometimes you really read a lot, you watch a lot, and you can recognize pattern like this easily, because you have all this knowledge in your brain, and that's fine. It's actually a good thing. Hey, Femida. Shh. It's supreme pattern recognition skills for survival. That's also truth. Because, as I told you, our brain learns to recognize patterns, to help us to survive, to avoid the suffering, to avoid famine, to avoid loneliness, because our biggest fears are here. And so our brain tries to recognize the patterns and to save us from them. And sure thing, you're gonna be prone to predict what's going on in the movie, because again, people are not that different. We have certain patterns of behavior. It depends on what kind of family we raised, what kind of genetics we got. So there are not so many factors actually. So there are not so many ways to behave. I see it, I see the setup, I see scenes with characters, and I know who is going to get together, who is going to betray who, and who is going to die. Well, those people who do scenarios, they're really they're good at it. A lot of movies, a lot of criminal TV series, they were made also in collaboration with real FBI agents, with real police, etc. They trying to do the thing real. They're trying to give a lot of truth through those narratives, a lot of truth. So you're gonna believe what's going on the screen. So you're gonna, because if you say that, oh, I don't believe that, it's BS, because it's not how it's going in real life, you won't have this feeling of reality of the things that's going on in the movie and everything. So yes, it's not always like it's going on in life, in your real life, but most of the time, scenarists, yes, those people who do scenarios, and they have to keep it real as they can. And here I was thinking, movies are just way too predictable. How are the people not seeing this? They must just not be paying attention. Yes, for some people it's not predictable, but some people don't have such a strong capacity to recognize the patterns. For some people it's impossible to learn. Some people cannot learn because their brain structure is built this way that it's really complicated. There are some people who try to dance for years and years, and they trying their best, but they still they can't dance really. They cannot. You look at them, and the person can be dancing for 10 years, and it looks like, or singing. I know those people personally. It's like, it's not really talent, I think it's brain. It's elasticity of the brain. It's probably something genetic, unfortunately. We have to admit that. So the same works with pattern recognition. That's why some people can work as a psychologist, some people can work and be profilers, some people can work in FBI, some people can work in mathematics. For example, me, I cannot work in mathematics because my brain just don't get it. I just cannot. I just cannot. When it comes to more sciencey things, which is not mathematical, but more like biology, microbiology, biology, chemistry, okay, psychiatry, criminology, yes. But when it's mathematics, it's much more complicated for me. So this way works. It's the same way with pattern recognition. Watching a crime series and usually sussing out the killer early on doesn't always work, but surprisingly often. I don't want to blame everything on, here in this video at least, I don't want to blame everything on narcissists or narcissistic abuse or something like that. All of us, we went through something during our lives. All of us, we went through certain traumas, because for you, what I went through might be not really traumatizing, or otherwise very traumatizing. For me, it's like in the middle, traumatizing. And it's different. We see things differently because we have super different background. We read different books, we watch different movies, and moreover, even if we read same books and watched the same movies, we did it differently. So when it comes to pattern recognition or whatever it is, we cannot blame everything on narcissistic abuse survivors and everything. We might be though, but sometimes it's not always an answer. It's really hard to figure out more and more things about yourself because it requires some work. And it's sure thing, it's easy to say that I was abused by this person or whatever, or my parents were wrong. Yes, maybe, But I don't think that you're 15 years now, or 18 years, or 19 years anymore. I don't think that. So you can try to make your life a little bit better. And if you went through narcissistic abuse, don't give them your energy, don't give them your time, don't give them your thoughts. And if you need help, still, you can ask for help. I'm here for that. I'm here to make videos. I'm here to explain things from different points of view. And good luck. Don't fall into this void from which it's gonna be much more complicated to get out from it. To crawl back, it's gonna be much more complicated to do than if you would stay here with us. So good luck.